Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
The rain hit my windshield like it had a grudge. Cold, steady, and just hard enough to piss me off. I was halfway home from my night shift at the plastics plant when something in my gut twisted. I don't mean a bad burrito or caffeine crash. I mean that low, tight pull in your stomach that doesn't let go until you figure out why it showed up. I took the left off County Road 46, tires sliding a little on the shoulder. Rick's place used to be our family home, a modern ranch our dad built himself before he passed. Now it was Rick's kingdom, or at least that's what he liked to think. I saw the porch light first, then I saw her, my mom. 82 years old, soaked to the skin, curled up like a child in a patio chair. Her nightgown clung to her legs, hair plastered to her face, just sitting there, like she'd been forgotten. Behind her, through the big living room windows, I could see shadows moving. Laughter, music, lights. Some kind of damn party on New Year's Eve. My brother and his wife and their kids drinking it up while my mother froze 10 feet from the door. I slammed the car into park, jumped out, and ran across the gravel. My boots slipped in the mud, but I caught myself on the porch rail. She didn't even flinch when I touched her shoulder. Mom. Jesus, what the hell are you doing out here? She blinked up at me, confused and shivering. I didn't wait for an answer. I wrapped my coat around her, lifted her out of the chair. She felt light, way too damn light, and carried her straight to the front door. It wasn't locked. Of course it wasn't. Why would it be? Family was inside having a blast. I kicked it open anyway. The music cut in half a second. Everyone turned like I'd just fired a gun. Rick stood there with a beer in one hand, dumb grin on his face, already 3 drinks past rational. "What the hell?" he said. I pushed past him, still carrying Mom, set her down on the couch by the fireplace, and grabbed the fleece throw folded over the armrest. She was outside, I snapped. In the cold. In a nightgown, Rick raised his eyebrows like it was no big deal. She wanted some fresh air. I pulled my work badge from my pocket, still clipped to my hoodie, and held it up. "This is elder abuse," Rick scoffed. "Kim, come on. Don't start with, 'Not anymore.' Quick note, before we go any further, tell us which city or country you're watching from." I said it flat. No yelling, no drama. Just facts. I'd pulled parts out of a 600-degree extruder, less serious than this, and I wasn't backing down now. Rick stood there with his mouth half open, looking like I'd slapped him. Lana had a plate of deviled eggs in one hand, fake smiling like she didn't know what was going on. The cousins, Eli and Megan, were frozen on the couch, phones still glowing in their laps. No one said a word while I pulled a thick pair of socks out of the coat closet and got Mom's feet out of those wet slippers. That was the thing about my family. We didn't speak the truth unless someone forced it out. I learned that young, right after Dad died in a logging accident when I was 10. He was gone before they even got him to the hospital. After that, Mom held the whole damn house together with duct tape and overtime. She worked second and third shifts at a packing plant, barely slept, and never complained. Not once. Rick was 15 then. He acted like he became the man of the house overnight. But really, he just got louder, bossier. He never had to get a job, never had to make dinner or do laundry. That was Mom. That was me. And when I struggled in school, especially with math, he'd roll his eyes and call me useless. "Mom babies you too much," he'd say. "She's making you soft." I wasn't soft. I just didn't learn the way Rick did. Or pretend to, anyway. I found my footing later, fixing small machines, working at a tire shop, then finally getting hired at the plastics plant. That job saved me. I had something to focus on, something I could get good at. Rick called it grunt work. I called it a paycheck. By the time Mom retired, Rick had somehow convinced her it made sense for him to handle things around the house. Said it was just to make life easier for her. One day I drove over and the deed was in his name. She smiled like it was fine, like she'd done something noble. I didn't push then. I should have. A few Thanksgivings ago, I remember walking in with a store-bought pie and seeing her slaving over a hot stove. Oven fogging up her glasses, sleeves rolled, trying to baste 2 turkeys at once. Dinner was served, and not one person thanked her. Not a word. Rick gave some half-assed let's eat toast while Lana snapped selfies for her stupid Facebook. When I stood up and said, "Can we at least thank Mom for cooking everything by herself?" Rick chuckled like I'd told a joke. "She loves doing it, Kim," he said. "Don't be weird." She laughed too, this thin, breathy sound, and wiped her hands on a dish towel like she couldn't wait to get back to the sink. After that, she started getting quieter, slower. I'd call and she'd say everything was fine, but her voice sounded smaller every time. When I asked about her doctor appointments, she brushed it off. When I asked about bills, she'd say Rick had it covered. I should have gone over more. I told myself work was the reason, that I had responsibilities. Night supervisor was a big step up. Long hours, managing crews, dealing with broken machines and pissed off operators. I was proud of that job, but deep down, I think I stayed away because every time I showed up, I felt like a stranger in my own family. Rick made sure of that. Little comments here and there, like, Kim's just here to criticize, or you wouldn't understand, you're not around enough. And Mom, well, she'd just nod along, eyes down. One Sunday last summer, I showed up with a pie again, fresh this time, and Lana opened the door like I was selling vacuum cleaners. "Oh, hi. You didn't say you were coming. It's Mom's birthday." Lana blinked. "Is it?" That was the moment something in me started to snap. I barely slept that night. Mom stayed curled under the electric blanket on my couch, wrapped in flannel like a rolled-up towel. I checked her breathing twice, just to be sure. Next morning, she insisted she wanted to go home. "Just for a bit," she said, voice scratchy. "My plants'll need waterin'." I didn't buy it, but I drove her anyway. Every mile back to Rick's house, my jaw clenched tighter. I wanted to keep her with me, clean her up, feed her, take her to a damn doctor. But she kept patting my arm like I was the one being dramatic. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same. Big, beige, boring, just how Rick liked things. The front steps were still damp from the rain. Inside, the whole family was gathered like it was Sunday morning. Lana wore yoga pants and a fake grin. Eli and Megan were on the couch, heads down, thumbs flicking across their phones. Rick stood at the kitchen island cracking eggs like he was starring in a cooking show. He didn't even look up when we walked in. "Morning," he said, like the night before hadn't happened. I helped Mom to a chair and poured her a glass of water. Her hands were trembling so hard the ice clinked against the glass like a damn warning bell. I kept my voice low but steady. "You left her outside, in the cold." At night, Rick finally turned, eyebrows raised like he'd been asked about the weather. "She wandered out there," he said. "She does that sometimes." "It's not a big deal," Lana jumped in, her voice high and smooth. "Kim, she got confused. We were checking on her." "No one was checking on her," I snapped. "She was freezing." "You were throwing a party," Mom tugged at my sleeve. "I'm fine, baby. Don't make trouble." I looked at her, really looked. Her hair was still damp at the roots, her sweater hung off her shoulders like it didn't belong to her, and those hands still shaking. Not from age, from fear. I turned and slammed my palm on the table so hard Eli flinched and dropped his phone. "This is neglect," Rick scoffed. "Don't get dramatic." "She could have gotten hypothermia." "She didn't," Rick said. "Jesus, you're acting like we tied her to a post." I reached into my hoodie and pulled out my badge again, tossed it on the table. "Maybe I'm just a shift lead, but the law doesn't care what I do for a living." Rick chuckled, slow and mocking. "What, you gonna shut down our house like you do the press lines at the plant?" "No, but APS might." Lana crossed her arms. "You're overreacting. Families handle things privately." I took a step forward, looked her dead in the eye. "Families protect each other." "You abandoned her," Mom whispered. "Kimberly?" But I held up a hand. I wasn't finished. "You're not the only ones with keys to this house. And I'm not the only one who saw her." That shut Lana up. Rick, though, he smirked and leaned back against the counter, like he was still holding the upper hand. "You work nights, Kim. You don't know what it's like here during the day." She's not always clear-headed. She forgets where the bathroom is. She screams about Dad sometimes. "You think you can manage that?" "I'd rather deal with that than leave her outside like a dog." He stared at me, then down at the badge. "You're not taking her." "I'm not asking." Nobody moved. You could hear the fridge humming. Megan finally glanced up from her phone like she'd just realized people were yelling. Rick stepped closer, dropped his voice. "You want to start a war over this?" I didn't blink. "If that's what it takes." He shook his head. "Unreal. You think one night makes you her savior?" "No," I said. "I think 20 years of you treating her like a burden is what makes me the only one left who gives a damn." Mom started to cry then, quietly, like she didn't want anyone to hear. Lana walked off to the hallway, muttering something about drama queens. Rick just stood there. I picked up my badge, slipped it back into my hoodie. "Keep pushing, Rick." I dare you. Then I turned and helped Mom back to her feet. Her hand curled around my arm like it had when I was a kid scared of thunderstorms. This storm, I wasn't scared of it. Not anymore. I brought Mom back to my place and told her she was staying. She didn't argue, just nodded and asked if I had any of those orange rolls she liked. For the first couple days, she stayed in my spare room and moved real slow. Careful, quiet, like she was waiting to get in trouble. But by the third morning, she was humming some old Patsy Cline tune and folding towels like it was her job. She made eggs and bacon without asking, wiped down the counters, even swept the porch like she still owned the place. I let her. I think she needed to feel useful again. But every time the phone rang, she jumped. She'd check the caller ID, then let it go to voicemail with her hands clutched tight in her lap. After the fifth time, I finally looked. Rick, Lana. Rick again. She caught me watching and gave me a small, guilty smile. They just want to know how I'm doing? No, they want to keep control, I said. They're family, she whispered, like that was supposed to explain everything. We were sitting at the tiny kitchen table, sunlight catching the grease spots in her hair. I pushed a bowl of soup toward her and waited. You gonna tell me how long this has been going on? I asked, not accusing, just tired. She stirred her spoon, didn't meet my eyes. I don't know. Things just happened. Mom. She sighed. Rick's been helping with bills for a while. Since I retired, said I didn't need to stress helping or taking over. Another sigh. He handles the accounts. Online stuff. I get confused with all those passwords. So you don't have access? I can see it if I ask. Do you? She didn't answer, just kept stirring. I sat back and crossed my arms. And when's the last time you saw a doctor? That finally got her to look up. Don't start. I'm serious. Her mouth pulled tight. Rick says I don't need one unless something's wrong. Something is wrong, Mom. You were out in the damn rain. She flinched like I'd slapped her. That was a mistake. I just needed air. Got turned around? No, I said, voice hardening. You were alone because nobody gave a damn. She blinked fast, then pressed the spoon down in the bowl so hard the broth sloshed out. I don't want to fight, she said. I'm not fighting. I'm asking you to tell me the truth. Her shoulders slumped, and for a second she looked about 20 years older. Not just tired, hollow. Like the years had drained her slowly, and none of us had noticed until she was almost gone. I don't want to cause trouble, she said. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. They already caused it. I'm just not pretending it's fine anymore. She wiped her hands on a napkin, then whispered, I don't even know what's mine anymore. The words were soft, but they hit like a punch. I reached across the table and grabbed her hand. This time, she didn't pull away. The next morning, I drove to First Trust Credit Union on my lunch break. Same one I cashed my first paycheck at, back when I was 19 and covered in tire grease. The teller, Cassie, recognized me right away. Hey, night shift, she said, grinning. You finally decided to join us during sunlight? I need a favor, I said, voice low. Cassie looked around, then leaned closer. What kind of favor? My mom's account. Dolores Valdez. I'm not asking for numbers, just patterns. Anything weird? She hesitated. I mean, I'm not asking you to print statements. Just tell me if something's off. Please. She looked at me, then exhaled. You didn't hear it from me, okay? Didn't hear a thing. She typed for a few seconds, then tilted the screen just enough. See that? She whispered. Weekly cash withdrawals. Usually 300, sometimes more. All signed off by Rick 300 a week? What the hell for? Cassie shrugged. Electric's on auto pay, water too. Groceries don't cost that much. Not unless she's feeding 10 people. She's not. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. Cassie tapped it again. He started signing in-person stuff about 2 years ago. That's when we added him to the account. Did my mom come with him? First time, yeah. After that, something cold slid down my back. Thanks, Cassie. She nodded. Be careful. I drove straight to the county clerk's office after work. I still had my boots on, reeking of burnt plastic and machine oil, and I didn't give a damn. The guy at the counter was young, nervous looking. I asked for any legal documents tied to Dolores Valdez and Rick Valdez. He found the power of attorney paperwork after a few minutes, signed, notarized, 2 years ago. The signature next to Dolores's name looked off, too clean. almost printed. I'd seen her sign birthday cards, job forms, legal junk. Her hand always wobbled a little. This was too perfect. "Can I get a copy?" I asked. He handed it over without blinking. I folded it in half and stuck it in my back pocket. Back at Rick's house, I didn't knock. I just walked through the side yard to the fence line. Mrs. Hanley, the next-door neighbor, was out front sweeping her driveway like always. She used to give me popsicles in the summer when I was a kid. "Mrs. Hanley," I called. She turned, squinting against the sun. "Well, I'll be Kimberly Valdez." We talked for a minute, small stuff, safe stuff. Then I asked the real question. "You ever see my mom outside alone?" Her expression dropped. "More times than I can count." "Recently?" "Couple days ago before the rain started, she was just sitting out there, no coat. I brought her a blanket." My throat tightened. "Did Rick say anything?" She nodded. "Told me to stay on my side of the fence. Said she was just getting air. Same thing every time." "Every time?" Mrs. Hanley looked down at her broom. "Kim, she's been out there in the heat. In the cold. Once I saw her crying, but when I came over, she said she was fine. Like she'd been coached, I gripped the top of the fence to steady myself. She laid a hand on my arm. I wanted to do more, but it's tricky, you know? Family stuff. "I get it," I said, "but I'm not staying quiet anymore." I drove home in silence, the copy of that power of attorney digging into my back like it had something to say. Rick didn't just cross a line, he bulldozed it. This wasn't about bad judgment or one drunken mistake. This was control. This was theft. This was my mother, stripped of her independence one bank slip at a time. By the time I parked outside the Union Hall, my hands were still shaking from what Mrs. Hanley told me. I didn't knock, just walked straight in. Bernie was in his office, boots up on the desk, flipping through a maintenance log like it owed him money. Big guy, late 50s, with a smoker's cough and zero tolerance for BS. He looked up, took one glance at my face, and sat up straighter. "What happened?" "I need your help," I said, shutting the door behind me. "It's about my mom." He frowned. "You mean Dolores?" I nodded. I laid it all out. The withdrawals, the forged signature, the neighbor, the cold porch. He didn't interrupt, just leaned back and listened like he was sorting through bolts in his head. When I finished, he grunted. "That boy always thought he was slick. I want to open a case. But I need someone with pull. Someone who'll back me when this gets ugly." Bernie stood up, pulled a small notepad from his drawer, and wrote down a name. "Call Eva Langston. She runs elder outreach through the city. You helped her do OSHA forms last year, remember?" "Yeah, the tiny lady with the clipboard?" He smirked. "That clipboard gets more done than half the council." I called her on the spot, told her everything. She didn't even pause. "What's your mom's full name?" "Dolores Valdez." "Send me her date of birth and current location. I'll get APS moving by tomorrow." I texted it over before we even hung up. Next was Darren Weller. He ran a local blog that made people nervous, the kind that got school board members fired and corrupt contractors investigated. I'd never spoken to him, but everyone in this town knew his name. I found his number on his site and dialed. "This is Darren. Hi, I'm Kim Valdez. I work night shift at Paxson Plastics. I've got a story. You're gonna want it." He let out a breath. "Lady, I get that line 10 times a day. This is different. This is about elder abuse, financial control, neglect, and the family doing it. Factory town locals with good reputations." There was silence. "This town loves its image," I said. "But they're letting one of their own rot because she stopped being useful. I've got documents, witnesses, and the woman herself." Another pause. Then, "I'm listening." I told him everything. By the time we hung up, he'd already asked for copies of the bank records and a time to meet Dolores. That night, I made tea and sat with Mom on the couch. Her hands were steady again, folded in her lap, but her eyes were wary. "They're gonna come after you," she said softly. "Rick, Lana. They'll say I'm confused, that I wanted this." "They already are," I said. "But you're not alone." She looked down at her cup. "I don't want to embarrass anyone." "You won't," I said. "But if you don't speak up, this keeps happening. To you. To other people." We spent the next hour practicing what to say, just the facts, no emotion, no drama. I wrote it out in bullet points and she read them until her voice stopped shaking. After the 5th run-through, she set the paper down and looked at me. If I stay silent, she said, I'm part of it. That's when I knew we were ready. I reserved the Union Hall for a Sunday afternoon, told the coordinator it was a community appreciation lunch for retired factory workers and longtime families. Nobody questioned it. Around here, you say the word union and people show up. I sent the invites by text, didn't bother with formal stuff. Told Rick, Lana, Eli, and Megan it was a chance to reset. A thank you event, a way to show respect for Mom. I didn't lay it on too thick. Just enough to make it sound like something Rick could spin into a PR moment. He texted back, kinda weird, but okay. She deserves something, I guess. Translation. He liked the idea of being seen, and he never passed up free food. I spent 2 nights cooking, cornbread, sweet tea, a big tray of baked ziti. Eva brought her own potato salad, Bernie handled chairs and setup. I didn't even have to ask. When the day came, I helped Mom into her old blue church dress, the one with the tiny white buttons and stitched collar. It hadn't fit right in years, but she wanted to wear it. Said it made her feel like herself again. You look sharp, Ma, I told her. Whole town's gonna see it. She smiled without showing teeth. Think they'll remember me? They never forgot you. When we walked in, the hall buzzed with that low hum of folding chairs, coffee urns, and polite chatter. The tables were full. Church friends, old coworkers, women she used to bake with. Even her old neighbor from the duplex days, Miss Felton, was there with her walker and a plate of cookies. A PS showed up in plain clothes, just another couple in the back, sipping sweet tea like they belonged there. Darren stood near the far wall with his camera bag slung over his shoulder. Quiet, watchful. Bernie leaned against the exit door, arms crossed, not smiling. Rick strolled in 15 minutes late wearing a polo and khakis, like he was running for city council. Lana followed in heels too high for the floors, dragging Eli and Megan behind her. I saw his eyes dart toward the crowd, counting faces. Wow, he muttered. Didn't expect this many. People showed up for her, I said, motioning toward Mom. He looked over, eyebrows lifting. She wearing that old blue dress? I ignored it and stepped aside so she could enter. When she did, the room shifted. Conversations slowed, some stopped. A few people stood up. One woman put her hand over her heart. Dolores Valdez, quiet for so long, walked into that hall like the matriarch she'd always been. Her back was straight, her hands calm, no shaking, no second guessing. She didn't smile wide, but she nodded at folks, made eye contact, gave a little wave to her church choir. Megan whispered something, and Eli actually paused his scrolling for half a second. Lana, of course, pulled out her phone to take a photo. I didn't stop her. Let her capture it. She wouldn't like what came next. I guided Mom to the front row. She sat down, hands folded neatly in her lap. Then I turned toward the mic. Time to speak. I stepped up to the mic, cleared my throat, and looked out at the rows of folding chairs. Thanks for coming, I said. This was supposed to be a simple lunch, a way to show appreciation for my mom, Dolores Valdez, someone who's given her whole life to this town, this union, this family. A few people clapped. My mother gave a small nod, her hands folded tight in her lap. But I'm not here to serve potato salad and say thank you. Not just that, I'm here because something's been happening behind closed doors, and it needs to stop. The room went still. Over the last year, I said, pulling a paper from my back pocket. My mom's been isolated, her finances have been taken over, her health ignored, and last week she was found sitting outside in the cold while the rest of her family partied inside. Rick laughed, loud, too loud. Kim, come on. Are you serious with this? Dead serious, I said, turning toward him. Let's talk numbers. I held up the bank statement copies. Weekly cash withdrawals, hundreds at a time, all signed by Rick Valdez. No receipts, no records. Dolores hasn't seen a doctor in over a year because, according to Rick, it's just aging. Murmurs started in the crowd, faces turning toward Rick and Lana. One of Mom's old coworkers narrowed her eyes. Rick stood up. This is ridiculous. She let me handle things. I've been taking care of her. Taking care? I repeated. Mrs. Hanley saw her outside alone, freezing. You told her to mind her business. Lana crossed her arms, fake laughing. This is a family issue. You're making it public to feel important. Wrong again, I said. I'm making it public because you've had every chance to do the right thing privately, and you failed. One of the APS agents stood up near the back, clearing his throat. All eyes turned. We're from Adult Protective Services. As of this morning, an official case has been opened regarding financial and physical neglect. We're here to observe and document. You could hear a pin drop. Then my mother stood. I didn't ask her to. I didn't plan it. She just rose, slow but steady, and faced the crowd. When I stopped being useful, she said, they stopped seeing me. Her voice didn't shake. Darren's camera clicked, sharp and loud. Rick's face went red. You think this is justice? You just humiliated your own damn family. He lunged forward, but before he got close, Bernie stepped between us like a brick wall. Sit down, Bernie said, voice low and solid. Now. Rick hesitated, just long enough to realize no one had his back. Then he backed off, fists clenched, breathing hard. Lana stood too, tugging at her purse like she was ready to bolt. One of the APS agents approached them, paperwork in hand. Rick Valdez, Lana Valdez, effective immediately, your power of attorney privileges are suspended pending full investigation and financial audit. You are not to make any further decisions regarding Dolores Valdez's care or accounts. Lana snatched the paper and glared at me. You'll regret this. No, I said. You will. Rick didn't say another word, just stared at Mom like he couldn't believe she'd stood up for herself. But she had. The room stayed quiet. No applause, no cheers. Just the weight of truth filling the air like smoke. Mom reached for my hand. I took it, steady and sure. This wasn't the end. Not yet. But the war wasn't quiet anymore. Rick called me 4 times the next morning. I didn't answer. Voicemail 1, yelling. You just ruined your own family? You happy now? Voicemail 2, quieter. We could have handled this. You didn't have to. Christ, Kim. 3, full-on sobbing. She's still my mom. 4, nothing. Just breathing. Then click. I deleted all of them. That night, Darren published the post. Title in bold, When Family Fails, a Factory Town's Quiet Crisis. Within 24 hours, it was everywhere. Shared by Dolores's old church group, posted in the retiree Facebook forums, even printed out and pinned to the break room corkboard at the plant. Neighbors I hadn't talked to in years showed up at my door. First came Mrs. Hanley with a lasagna and a pack of paper towels. Then Miss Felton with an envelope of coupons and a sticky note that said, Tell her she's not forgotten. 2 older guys from the VFW brought over a sack of oranges and stayed 30 minutes just to sit with her. A PS called the following Friday. Temporary guardianship approved. I sat Mom down and told her, clear as day, you're living with me now. She didn't argue, just said, I'd like that. We cleared out the spare room and drove to Burke's Furniture Outlet the next day. Got her a secondhand recliner for $80. Ugly green corduroy, but she loved it. Said it reminded her of the chair Dad used to nap in after Sunday dinner. I took her to Dr. Holland, the only physician in town who didn't double book 3 patients per hour. He did a full workup, asked the right questions. She left with 2 prescriptions and a referral to a neurologist. I'm not broken, she told me in the car. I know. You're healing? She smiled at that. We started making routines. Cornbread on Sundays. Bingo at the community center on Thursdays. Old crime shows every night before bed. Matlock, Perry Mason, the classics. Sometimes she'd hum while folding laundry or rearranging her pill organizer like a tiny puzzle. Her steps got a little quicker. Her voice didn't quiver so much. She kept her hair brushed, her cardigan buttoned. The phone still rang every now and then. I never said who it was, and she never asked. I caught her by the window one morning, rocking slow in the chair, sun catching the edge of her coffee cup. I just set a pan of bacon on the stove when she spoke, voice clear and simple. I feel like myself again. I didn't say anything. Just turned the burner down and let the moment breathe. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and printer toner. Nothing dramatic, no high ceilings or fancy woodwork, just a boxy room with flickering fluorescents and a busted thermostat. Rick sat 2 rows ahead, slumped in a wrinkled gray suit that probably hadn't seen daylight in 10 years. His hair was slicked back too tight. Lana sat stiff beside him, clutching her purse like it held her last ounce of dignity. I didn't look at them. I looked at the judge. When they called my name, I stood and laid it all out. The bank withdrawals, the fake signature, the power of attorney, the medical neglect. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry, just told the truth. Dolores didn't have to speak. A PS made that clear, and she was okay with that. She just sat beside me, hands folded, cardigan buttoned up neat. The judge's ruling took less than 5 minutes. Effective immediately, Rick and Lana Valdez are suspended from all legal and financial decision-making regarding Dolores Valdez. A court-ordered financial audit will be opened. Temporary guardianship remains with Kimberly Valdez, pending full review. Rick's jaw twitched, but he didn't say a word. Neither did Lana. They just stared straight ahead while the gavel came down. Outside, a reporter from the Herald-Ledger tried to get in my face. "Miss Valdez, any comment?" I didn't break stride. I just opened the passenger door and helped Mom into the car, buckled her in, shut it gently. We drove home with the windows cracked and the radio off. Back at the house, I made her a cup of tea while she settled into her chair. Her ugly green recliner creaked just once as she leaned back, ankles crossed. The sunlight hit her lap, warm and full like it belonged there. She looked out the window and whispered, "I thought I'd leave this life quietly." Then she turned her head and smiled, soft but steady. "I'm glad you didn't let me." I didn't answer. I just stood there and watched the street, not looking back, not regretting a damn thing. The phone rang once from the kitchen, then twice. I let it go. Some storms you stand in, others you walk through and come out clean on the other side.